Okay, great. So we are recording. So for today's career fair, for today's training, I really wanted to be able to kind of work in a live career fair to show you all what it's like. So I've created a fake career fair that's just a training fair. And so we'll be working in that since it is a live career fair. So the first thing I'll mention is kind of what to do the day of the career fair. You and your recruiters and staff will need to log in to Hire a Niner to access the fair. This is an employer account, kind of the homepage there. There's a couple ways to access the fair. The first one is on the right-hand side. You'll see that there's an attend events section, and you can click there. There's also career fairs on the left, and then you'll see a list of all the career fairs coming up. When you're looking at this list of career fairs, the day of the career fair, what you're looking for is this green kind of button that says view chats. View chats is kind of like the same as like enter career fairs. So you could think of it like a go into the career fair button, and that's what you'll click to kind of get started with the fair. First, let me, kind of share a little bit about kind of how the career fair runs. There are multiple virtual career fair systems. Checked out a lot of them. They all seem to run a little differently. Symplicity's virtual career fair system tries to take the in-person career fair experience and do as much as they can to kind of put it all online. So if you think about an in-person career fair, right, you all as recruiters have a table set up, you have multiple recruiters, and you have a line perhaps of students who are waiting to talk with you. You talk with kind of the first student at your table. Once that interaction's done, you kind of move on to talking to the next student that's there. So this system kind of puts that experience online. I'm going to go ahead and click the View Chats button. So now I've kind of entered the career fair, I would say. And so what's in front of me is my queue. So if there are any one or more students kind of waiting to talk with me, I'll see them in this list here. And I can scroll down, it'll show 20 students at a time. And so, yeah, so I can kind of see the students that are like waiting in line to talk with me. The system calls it a queue. And at any time, I'll be able to kind of see that very first student in line and be able to invite them to chat with me. So the system is kind of like locked down. And by that, I mean, you can't like skim through the list of students and kind of, pick a student that's, number 10 in the line. You'll always have kind of one option of a student to invite to chat, and it'll be that very next student in line. When you get kind of logged in for the first time on the day of the career fair, on the right-hand side, you can take a look. We can look at this information. So this here is my chat profile as a recruiter. So it just has my name, contact information. This section here is the video chat settings. And most of what we're talking about now has to do with one-on-one chat. And I will talk a little bit about group chat in a few minutes. Most of what I'm talking about has to do with one-on-one chat. So for one-on-one chat, each of your staff members that are participating in the career fair will need to have their own video chat link. I think another thing that makes Symplicity's system maybe a little different than some others is that video is not embedded into the system. So Hire a Niner doesn't have video capabilities. Instead, each recruiter, each organization can choose whatever video chat system they prefer to use and can use that for the career fair. So you can use Teams, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Meets, Skype, really any video chat system that you prefer to use. We find that most organizations have kind of purchased a video chat platform for their employees, and so most people use that. Teams and Zoom seem to be the most common, but any video chat platform that you would want to use, you can use. And so each staff member who's participating in the career fair will need to have their own kind of separate room, video chat room. They'll of course need that link from that room. And that will need to be either included on the career fair registration before the event, or your recruiters can put in that information when they kind of log in to get ready for the career fair. So if I'm logging in kind of for the first time, I'll click on this view video or video chat instructions. And now, since I had information in the registration, so this was already kind of preset for me by the recruiter who registered my organization. But I can take a look at it, I can change it, anything that I want to do at this point. So again, each of your recruiters that's doing one-on-one chat needs to have their own kind of separate video chat room. And you have two options for kind of sharing that information. You can share it before the event, and you can do that by editing your career fair registration, and you'll be able to add in the video chat links for each representative. The other option is to let your recruiters know that the day of the career fair, when they log in to participate, that they'll need to put in their own video chat link, which they can do just like we're kind of looking at right now. We find that most people like to do it in advance, which is handy, just so we can like check and kind of see if everyone has kind of those video chat links in. In addition to the video chat link, you'll see that there's a second piece here for alternate contact information. We do like if your recruiters can put in a phone number or an email address, and students will be able to use that if for some reason they're not able to access your video chat room. It doesn't happen very often, but I think it is very handy for students to be able to see that there is additional information there that they could take a look at if they need to. Let me check in the chat because I think that we had a few questions. So yeah, that view chats button, the green button we were looking at, it only appears during the career fair. Now I will say, so the career fair next Friday, the 17th, is 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So students will only be able to access the fair during that time. However, the system will open an hour earlier for recruiters. So any recruiters that are participating in the fair next Friday can get logged into the system as early as 10 a.m. So you kind of have that 10 to 11 a.m. time frame. But if you want to get logged in a little early, make sure you get logged in to hire a Niner. Make sure you kind of get to the right screen. Maybe double check your video chat information. You can do that up to an hour before the career fair. And that 10 to 11 timeframe, that view chats button will also be viewable. So you'll be able to click on that and kind of get into the career fair. Of course, from 10 to 11, you won't see any students in your queue. The event won't open to them until 11. Yeah, so we had a question from Walter, and I think this is a really good one. So he's talking about doing one-on-one chat and kind of the idea of, it looks like, Walter has a couple of staff that want to talk with computer science majors and a couple of other staff that want to talk with engineers. So that kind of system is a little tricky in this career fair system. And that's because the system is only ever going to let a recruiter invite the very next student in line to chat. So the system doesn't let me as a recruiter kind of look through the list and choose a student to chat with. The kind of information you'll see on each candidate is their name, possibly their picture, their graduation date, and then this information here will actually be their major. Because it's a fake student account, it's a little odd there, but that will be their major. So you can see that information about candidates, but the system is only going to let you take the next student in line. The only way to Walter, probably two ways to kind of make that happen. One might be to consider group chat. And the other option, which may get a little tricky, and I haven't heard of any employers doing it, but as you can see, you will be able to see the student's major. So if you have two, engineers on, two engineering recruiters on and two, computer science recruiters on, one of your computer science majors may look at the list of candidates, and maybe the next candidate in line is an engineer who they prefer not to talk with too. They could just wait and not take that student. Because at some point, like one of the engineering recruiters will take that next student, and then it will show your computer science recruiter kind of the next student in line. So that could get a little tricky, especially if you end up with like 5 candidates in a row that are computer science majors. That's kind of a long time for your engineering recruiters to wait, and also kind of a long time for those computer science students to wait. So that part does get a little tricky. And maybe when we talk about group chat, maybe you'll find that perhaps is a better option or an option for you all to consider. I want to show you here too, as we look at the queue of students, I kind of showed you the information you could see. You also can see the student's resume. So I'll click here. You guys will be able to see a recipe that I've been making recently because it's a fake resume. But you will be able to click and view the student's resume. Students aren't required to have a resume uploaded when they RSVP. But we strongly, strongly recommend that. And I think you'll find most students will have a resume available. So you'll be able to see that information about the candidates. And then when you're ready to start a conversation with the candidate, you'll click this Start Chat button here. So let me go ahead and click that. So I've clicked the Start Chat button. I've switched to kind of a new screen here, right? So I can see kind of the information about the student, and I can see text here that says that the chat request is sent to the student. And so, oh, and I got a little ding. So this is my student. This is a student's view of things. And so as the student now, I've gotten a pop-up that lets me know that I've got a chat ready. I also see over here, and I got a ding saying, okay, there's a chat ready. And I'll go ahead and click join the chat. Again, this is the student view. And what I'm seeing now is I get to see that recruiter's video chat information. And so I, as a student, will click on that link to join that recruiter's video chat room to be able to have that conversation. Now we're back to the recruiter's view. Since I kind of accepted the chat, we see this green chatting with you. So once you see that, you'll know that the student has kind of clicked on ready to chat. And I would expect that they'll join your video chat room in the next 10 to 30 seconds or so. So participating in the career fair is kind of two pieces for you all as recruiters. One is being logged into Hire and managing the queue of students and inviting each one to chat. And then the second piece is you'll need to have your video chat room open to be able to have those conversations with students. So at this point, once I've extended that video chat or started the conversation kind of with the student through the system, at this point, kind of seeing this screen, I'll actually want to move over and pull up my video chat and then have that, wait for that student to show up and have the conversation with that student then. And I can largely kind of somewhat like ignore this Hire right now, this screen that I've got up, because I want to be focused on that conversation with the student. I will mention that there is a timer that's going down here. When you all registered for the career fair, you got to choose an estimated time that you wanted to spend with students, and that's between 5 and 15 minutes. That time is for all of your recruiters from the same organization. So it's not, each recruiter can't set a certain amount of time. However, the timer is just a way to maybe try to keep you and your recruiters kind of moving through those conversations. Unlike an in-person career fair, right, where as you're talking with a student, you also can probably pretty easily see how many students you have in line to talk with you. And that can be a good visual cue to like, okay, I might need to wrap it up because our line's getting long. It's a little harder to see that virtually. So that's why they have the timer. I will make sure you all kind of share, or I'll share with you all, that your video chat room and Hire are two separate things. So when this timer gets down to 0, it's not going to shut down your video chat room. It's not going to kick the student out of your video chat room. It's not going to really do anything with that conversation. It is handy to keep your eye on the timer just to kind of keep things moving. But for example, if you knew that like you didn't have any other students in line, you can certainly continue talking with the student even when that timer goes down to 0. When it goes down to 0, there'll be a pop-up that'll ask you if you want to extend the time by 2 minutes. And you can do that, and you can keep doing that kind of as long as you would like. We definitely do recommend kind of keeping your eye on the queue, or kind of keeping in your mind that you might have a queue of students waiting as you're having those conversations. So I'm talking with the student, and I kind of wrap up that video chat with the student, kind of say goodbye. The student, kind of leaves that video chat. And then I'll come back here to this screen as the recruiter, and you have the option, it's definitely not required, but you have the option to take notes on this contact, on the student. You can kind of do overall feedback. You can, if you want to refer them to someone, you can put that in, and you can put in notes. And those notes are not at all viewable by any students. They are viewable by you and other recruiters from your organization. So you can kind of make comments here. You don't have to. I'm going to click end chat. If I wanted to kind of take notes here, I could, but now I'm just going to click done. And this is going to take me back to the queue of students, so kind of that main career fair page. And at this point, if I had another student waiting in line, I might go ahead and start that kind of the next conversation. Two other things I wanted to say about the queue of students. One is that you can see kind of a list of other recruiters from your organization that are participating in the fair. So this is me, but I can look down and see other recruiters that are participating. And I also wanted to be able to show you in the queue of students, kind of in the middle of your page, you might see a student listed like this. So you might see a student and you might see text that says chatting with, and there might be the name of another recruiter from your organization. So by sharing that, I'm saying the system does take into consideration kind of who's chatting with who. So if you have a coworker that invites a student to chat, the system knows that, and it's not going to let you invite that same student to chat. Instead, you'll actually be able to see who's chatting with that student. And then the other kind of piece of information you might see here when you're looking at your queue of students is you might see a student in your list that's listed as busy. And that's because, unlike an in-person career fair where students can only stand in one line at a time, the virtual career fair system allows students to join up to 5 queues at the same time. So they can join the queues of up to 5 employers or graduate programs at the same time, and the system will keep track of that. They'll keep track of where the student is and the lines. And if another employer invites that student to video chat, but they're in your line, they may show up in your line and they may have the term that may have text that says busy. So even if they're at the very front of your line, you may see that it says busy, and that means that student is chatting with another employer. If the student is busy, it won't let you invite them to chat. But once the student finishes their conversation with the other employer, the system will kind of put them back at the front of your queue, and you will be able to invite them to chat. So if you see the word busy, that's what that means. Students chatting with someone else, and then they should be back available to chat with you in 5 or 10 minutes or so. I may go back and kind of show you how to add in a representative and their Zoom link kind of through the registration system in just a minute. I do want to talk about in-person, I want to talk about one-on-one versus group chat. So in the system, you have 3 options: one-on-one chat only, group chat only, or both. In general, I would say that Symplicity's career fair system is largely designed for one-on-one conversations. I think it's, to me, it's kind of obvious in the system that it was largely created for that experience. And so I think that there are definitely a number of features that make one-on-one chat perhaps an ideal choice in many situations. So some of the pros to using one-on-one chat is that I think it's the type of conversation that's easiest for students to see. So even if you're offering both group and one-on-one chat, we find that students are most interested in the one-on-one chat. And in the system, it's actually easiest for them to see if you're offering one-on-one chat. It's easier for them to see that than to see that you're offering group chat. So we kind of find that students have a preference for that one-on-one chat. The only way that you can see a student's resume kind of in the system is if you do one-on-one chat. If you do group chat, then you won't be able to kind of see that student's resume through Hire a Niner. Of course, while you're chatting with them in your group chat, you could certainly share an email address and say, hey, can you email me your resume? And the student could share their resume that way, or share their resume after the chat. But if you like the ability to kind of see the student's major, grad date, resume, that's those things you'll only see through one-on-one chat. The notes feature that we saw, where you can take notes after talking with a candidate, the ability of the system to kind of track what students you're seeing, being able to, after the event, kind of access like an Excel spreadsheet of the contact information for all the students you chatted with. That's only available for the one-on-one chats. Symplicity has pretty limited kind of tracking when it comes to group chats. So those are kind of the benefits of doing the one-on-one chat. So if you wanted to do group chat, what that would involve is that your organization would just have one group chat link, so one Teams room or one Zoom room. You, of course, can have one or multiple staff that are in that room. That group chat link will be available for students to see, and they can join that link kind of throughout the event. Of course, that means you may have one, none, or multiple students in your group chat room at a time. Employers that use group chat, I've seen them use it one of two different ways. One is as just kind of a come and go group chat. Students can kind of jump into the group chat, talk with a recruiter, maybe listen in to a conversation that's happening, and then go whenever they're ready. I've also seen employers use it for timed information sessions. So with the idea that maybe you'll decide to have 20-minute information sessions at 11:30, 12, 12:30, and 1. And you can put in a schedule of when your sessions are. And so you could share that with students with the idea that students would hopefully kind of see that and then be able to, and then kind of join in for one of those sessions where you share information with them. Yeah, I'll kind of show you a little bit of what that looks like. So when a student clicks on a company, usually there's actually a lot more information here about the company and who they're hiring, not for this test event, but there is a group chat button here. The student can click on it, they can see the group chat link, and if the employer is doing some kind of schedule, they can see that here as well. Even if there are timed sessions, a student could still join your group chat at any time. I have seen a few employers who do a group chat, but also want to use breakout rooms. And so I think Walter is the right name, kind of going back to your engineering versus computer science. You might have a group chat set up, and maybe you have your engineering staff in one breakout room and your computer science staff in another breakout room. And you have one person kind of in the main group chat. As students come in, you kind of say hi and kind of ask what area they're in. And then maybe you would assign them out to a breakout room, depending on what area, what their major is, or kind of what kind of opportunities they're looking for. So that's how group chat could work, one of those two different ways. One of the things that I wanted to show kind of from this screen that I feel like is probably one of the key downsides to doing group chat. I know Symplicity is working on fixing this issue, but it doesn't look like they'll be releasing kind of a change in this before our career fair. I have a feeling that change will come maybe at the end of 2021. So this is the student view of the career fair. So we can see this University Career Center here. They're offering one-on-one chats, and I can see as a student how many of their staff are online and what the estimated wait time is to chat with them. The system estimates that wait time based on the number of minutes in your registration you said you would spend talking with a student versus how many representatives you have online, and taking into consideration how many students are currently in line. So if you're kind of wondering where that came from. In this fake case, Symplicity Test Corp is just offering group chat and not offering one-on-one chat. Even if they're offering group chat, and even if that group chat room is open and there are staff in that group chat room, a student will see this. A student will see text that says, no representatives online and not accepting chats. So unfortunately, they'll see that messaging, which I think can sometimes stop students from maybe clicking the employer and checking to see if they have group chat. There are a couple of things on our end that we have done and will do to kind of help employers who are just offering group chat. One thing is that we really do try to educate students that just because it says no representatives doesn't mean that the organization, isn't there and waiting for group chat. Also, kind of the day before a career fair, any organizations that are just offering group chat, I'll actually go in and edit the name of your organization, and next to your name, I'll put in parentheses like group chat available. So to try to kind of indicate to a student, hey, you should click on this employer because there are people waiting to chat. It's just a group chat. So I want to talk about kind of the pros and cons to one-on-one and group chat. I did mention you have the option to do both, and you certainly can, and some employers have done that. I do get a sense that I think students both prefer the one-on-one chat and probably find it easier to access the one-on-one chat. So I would kind of expect that if you offered group and one-on-one, you probably would find more traffic for your one-on-one chats than your group chat. There is at least kind of one not very specific, but I think there's one specific case when I think I would say that I highly recommend doing group chat. And that is if you're an employer who expects to have quite a bit of traffic and you don't have the availability of very many staff to do one-on-one chats for your organization. So some of you who have participated in our virtual or in-person fairs before may have a decent sense of how much traffic you've seen. If you are recruiting broadly in business, engineering, and or computer science, especially if you're recruiting in multiple of those areas, I might expect that you may have quite a bit of traffic. Especially, I would say, if you are open to recruiting international students or students on an F1 visa, if that's true and you recruit in computer science or engineering, we do see good career fair attendance from those students. And I would say I would especially anticipate that you probably would be busy. If you do fall into kind of one of those categories and do expect to be busy, I would recommend having 5 or 6, maybe even more staff available to do one-on-one chats. To some degree, you can kind of think about it and kind of like do the math. Now, this is an English major telling you all to do the math, but I've learned some math. So let's say you anticipate your staff talking to each student one-on-one for about 10 minutes. And so that means each of your staff members will talk to maybe 5 or 6 students in an hour, and so if in the first 30 minutes of the event, you end up with 50 students kind of in your line, I'm not actually going to do the math, but depending if you don't have enough people kind of taking one-on-one chats, that could equal a really long wait time for students. At our virtual career fairs in the past, we have seen some wait times of up to 10 to 12 hours. 10 to 12 hours, it's a 4-hour career fair. And so we know that that's not fun or ideal for you and your recruiters to kind of feel like there's a line and they got to keep moving. And are they seeing the students that they want to see? And we certainly know that that's not fun for students. So if you are someone who thinks that you may be busy and you don't have 5 or 6 staff members who can handle, who can participate in the career fair, then I think just doing group chat may be a really good option for you. Again, I think if you're in that situation, you offer both group and individual. I think your individual chats are still going to be really busy, but just kind of throwing this out there for you. You can have as many staff as you would like participate in the fair. There's no charge based on the number of people. And you can have staff that kind of come and go. So if you have a staff member who can only do interviews or only work the career fair for an hour, that's fine. That doesn't need to be scheduled. The recruiter can literally log into the system, mark themselves as online, take some chats, and then log off when they're done with that, when they're done kind of with their time. And that does remind me, because I do want to show you all. This is the recruiter view of the fair. On the right-hand side, there is a status bar, and there's online, offline, and busy. When you first log into the fair, you'll actually see a pop-up that will basically kind of prompt you and kind of say, okay, are you ready to go online? Let me show you what that looks like. Yeah, so you'll see this when you or any of your recruiters kind of first log on. We'll kind of go, okay, are you ready to go online? You can choose to stay offline or go online. If you are kind of ready to talk with students, then you would mark yourself as online. If you then at some point during the event find that you need to step away, you need to take a 15-minute break, you need to take a phone call, you need to get grab some food, 15, 10, 30 minutes, and you plan to come back, I would recommend marking yourself as busy. And then when you come back, kind of marking yourself as online. If you are kind of through with your time at the career fair, you'll mark yourself as offline and then log off of the system. And the busy, online, and offline go into kind of the formula for helping students kind of estimate what kind of wait time they will have. I also want to say that if at any point all of the recruiters from your organization are marked as offline or kind of logged off of the system, then that kind of somewhat effectively kind of closes your room. And by that, I mean, and here I'll do it. So I'm about to mark myself as offline, and my coworker, Michelle, is not here. So I'll mark myself as offline, and it's going to give me a warning message that basically says, okay, if you go offline, no one from your company is actually online at this point. And so the system will actually automatically alert students that no one is taking chats for your organization, and it's likely that they'll leave your queue. Now, if it is really, you guys are all done with the career fair, then you might then like, sure, yeah, go offline because you're kind of done with the day. Yeah, so just kind of a note about those statuses. I'll also mention kind of what happens at 3 p.m. when the career fair is over. If you still have any students that you're actively talking with or any students in your queue, the system doesn't kind of stop all of that. It doesn't end your queue. You are welcome to continue talking with students in your queue if you are able to and would like to. If you're not able to and kind of are ready to end things, you would mark yourself as offline, like I showed, and then you would kind of leave the system. At that point, if you go offline and there are any students still in your queue, Hire a Niner will actually send you an email with a list of the information and resumes for any students that were still in your queue when you leave. And I think that's a great feature. We know that, of course, it's not ideal for students to maybe still be in line when the event is over or when all of the recruiters have to leave. But I do like the fact that even if that's the case, you all will be able to definitely see their resumes and get their information to consider them as candidates. Yeah, let me take a breath very quickly and let me jump into the chat to see if there are any questions. Yeah, so we had a good question about kind of access to Hire a Niner. And so yes, so if you're doing one-on-one chats, then each recruiter from your organization will need to be listed on your registration form. And so you'll need to at least list their name and email address. When you add them to your registration form, that will trigger Hire a Niner will automatically set up a Hire a Niner account for each of those representatives unless they already have an account. So if you go into the system today and add 3 new representatives and none of them have Hire a Niner accounts, once you add them to the system, Hire a Niner will create Hire a Niner accounts for the 3 of them, and we'll send them an email letting them know that they now have an account and asking them to set up a password to be able to access their account. So the good news is that's kind of all automated. You don't need to manually create accounts for them. You also don't need to ask them to manually create accounts for themselves. That will be set up by the system. I will mention that if you go into Hire a Niner and make edits to your registration, which we see employers doing often, and that might be edits to add additional recruiters, add video chat links, that might be editing kind of your profile information. So any kind of changes that you make to your registration, do make sure that you continue through the entire registration form and then kind of do that final confirm button. Once you do that, your registration does go back into the pending bin kind of on our side, and we have to approve your registration. We do try to do that really quickly. I live in Hire a Niner, and all I do now with my life is approve registration. So do know, I mean, it may take an hour or two, for us to kind of approve that, but that should be done pretty quickly. We're not like in detail kind of nitpicking what changes you've made. We're happy to have you make changes, but we'll be approving that. And when we do, you will get another registration confirmation email. It will have an invoice or a receipt attached to it. There aren't any additional charges. That's just kind of how the system works. But do feel free to kind of make those changes to your registration form, as you would like. And I think I have maybe one more piece to show you guys in the system. And then if you'd like, I'm happy to pull up a registration and kind of show you what it might be like to edit that and kind of where to put certain information, if that makes sense. So let me say one more thing about group chat, and then I'll show you one feature that can help you market your organization to students, and then we'll see what questions there are. So kind of the last thing that I want to say about group chat is if your organization is doing group chat only, then during the career fair, you actually don't need to be logged into Hire a Niner. And in fact, I would recommend that you not log into Hire a Niner. Might sound a little odd, but if you're doing group chat during the career fair, the main thing that you need to do is to open up that group video chat room. So open up that link, that you've put into your fair registration and be there available to chat with students as they come into the room. What I don't want to have happen is I don't want any of you or your recruiters, if you're doing group chat, to log into Hire a Niner. I don't want you to mark yourself as online, because what that will do is that'll actually open up your queue, your one-on-one queue for students to join it. And then of course you're not planning to do that, you're doing a group chat. So I would say if you're doing a group chat, you and your recruiter shouldn't log into Hire a Niner at the day of the event. Instead, open up that Zoom or Teams room, that you're using, and kind of be there ready to talk to students as they join your group chat. And somewhat the same message if you're doing both group and one-on-one. Your staff members that are doing the one-on-one chats do need to log into their Hire a Niner account, mark themselves as online, but your staff member or multiple staff members that are doing group chat shouldn't log into Hire a Niner. They don't need to be listed on your career fair registration if they're only doing group chat. They'll just need to have that room open. And you and your staff who are doing one-on-one chats want to have Hire a Niner open and be in the career fair to look at the queue of students and invite them to chat. And at the same time, you'll want to have your Zoom or video chat room open and kind of live throughout the event. So as you invite a student to chat, you'll be able to kind of then like maximize, that room and be able to have that conversation with the student. Let me check the chat. Okay. So I did want to mention, and I think this is maybe something that's not incredibly well known, but you can take a look at students that have RSVP'd for the career fair, and you can contact them directly through the system. I'm going to show you all kind of through this fake fair, but to do this for you all, you would find the fall fair, you'd log into Hire a Niner, you'd find the fall fair, and you'd click on a button that says register. And now I can see that there's a tab that says all RSVP'd students. And so I'll click on there. Now there's only one RSVP'd student for this training fair, but for the fall fair, there are about 200 students that have RSVP'd right now. And we typically see that RSVPs are slow until about the day before the career fair. And so that's when you'll start to see kind of the higher numbers of students that have RSVP'd. So you can go to the view all RSVP'd students. You can do a couple of things. You can put in a search term like a major to search through the students to identify ones you're interested in. You can click this advanced search button, and here you can search by major. If you wanted to look for a specific major, you click this little triangle. There we go. And the little triangles kind of expand this out. So you can choose a major, class level, work authorization, degree level, and you can do a search. There are almost no students, so I'm going to have none that show up. But as you do a search, you should see results. You can select all, do the select all button, which will kind of bookmark or check mark each of those students. And you can do kind of 3 different things. Generate publication creates a resume book that is like basically a packet of resumes for all of the students you've checked marked. You can save those students' information as an Excel spreadsheet. So if you kind of want to see their information or maybe use that for some tracking, you can do that. And you also can send them an email directly through the system. So directly through Hire a Niner. I recommend using the invite to chat message. And that's a message that's kind of pre-populated for, I don't think it's going to let me do it because there are no students. Here we go. And that's a message that's pre-populated with information on how students can participate in the fall fair. And so the message pops up like this. This part here, you'll want to not touch and leave alone. The system will kind of put in information like your company's name and how they can participate in the career fair. But I definitely do recommend that you put some text in here, maybe a couple of top reasons why they should consider chatting with you all, maybe some news. I get some of these emails from employers because I RSVP myself for career fairs. And the ones that I feel like stand out to me are ones that had kind of some like fun, interesting information. One of them kind of described the work environment as being like really, creative and innovative and casual, and so it had some descriptors. And so that kind of stood out to me. So you certainly can kind of put a message in here for those students and you can click send. And that will send to each of those students that you check mark an email from you, basically inviting them to chat with you at the career fair. If you're going to do this, I recommend doing it the day before the career fair, or even maybe the morning of the career fair. That way you'll kind of get to connect with more RSVP'd students. And sometimes I think kind of that last minute kind of reminder or invite is useful for students. So doing this a couple days in advance may not be as effective. Doing it the day before or maybe the morning of might be a good way to kind of gather some interest in your organization. You'll be able to kind of view this same thing kind of during the fair, after the career fair. And so that's a great way to be able to access student resumes and student information for students that you may be interested in. And then if you do the one-on-one chats, you'll also be able to access the information on those candidates that you've chatted with. This within 24 hours, the system will send you an email that will have a resume book and will have an Excel spreadsheet with kind of the information on the students that you all chatted with. Yeah, this is a great time for kind of some additional questions if anyone has them. While we're kind of seeing if there are any questions, I thought I would go ahead and pull up career fair registration to show a little bit about editing that. Yeah, any questions from you all about the event? Did get a question kind of in this morning's training, which I thought was a good one, about kind of how many students do we expect? I'm saying kind of 800 to 1,000 for this career fair. It has been very hard to tell what attendance is going to be like with virtual events, but I think that that's probably a pretty good estimate. Yeah, so I'm logged into an employer's account, who's one of our grad programs that's registered for the fair. So if I want to edit my registration, I can go to events and then career fairs. And then I'm going to look for the name of the career fair and click on that registered button next to it. This is also how you can access the RSVPs. But here I'm going to click on the registration tab. And then this is kind of reminding me about kind of all of my registration information. I'll scroll down. And then if you want to edit it, you click the modify button. And then you can go through kind of each page and edit any information that you have here. This kind of section about like what kind of chat you're doing, that doesn't actually impact the system. That's really more for us to know what you're planning. And if you're undecided, maybe for us to reach out. So this overview section is really visible to students once they click on the name of your organization, either before the fair or during the fair. So this is a great section to have information in, which for most people is kind of what their organization is about. There are a couple of things you may want to add to this section as you get closer to the career fair. One thing that you might consider adding would be the names or position IDs for any positions, any jobs that you've posted in Higher Ed Einer. So if you want to kind of encourage students to apply directly to those positions, it can be a great idea to list that in kind of the top of this overview section. And then I also, if you're doing group chat, I also think it's a good idea to indicate that here. So, maybe something like, will be available in group chat, throughout the event. Here's our link. Now, students can still click on your group chat button and view that information, but this overview section is a little more visible to them than the group chat, kind of button. And so that can be a nice thing to add here as well, kind of at the top of the overview. Yeah. All right. And so here is the representative kind of section, right? And so this is for one-on-one chats. And so any staff member from your organization that's doing one-on-one chats needs to be listed here. You can click add new and add their information. You have to put in their name and email address. You don't have to fill in the other fields. If you want to go ahead and have the video chat room set up for them, you would put that here. And then alternate instructions could be for a phone number or an email address if students have any technical issues. So you can kind of add the meeting instructions, which by meeting instructions, it just means like the Zoom or Teams link. You can add that to the registration, or you can let your recruiters know that they'll add that in when they log in to participate in the career fair. So this is kind of for the one-on-one, is representatives field. We go next. Let me remove this new record. Let me go next. One-on-one chats, this is for that time frame. I do recommend that if you're doing one-on-one chats and you think that you might be busy at all, trying to keep this at 5-7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because that can make a big difference, I think, in obviously how many students you're able to get through. And then the next field is for the group chat instructions. So if you want to have group chat, this is where you would put kind of the link to the group chat. And if you want to have any kind of schedule, like scheduled sessions, or just to put language in here that says, we're here throughout the fair, feel free to join us. You can do that here. And if you make any changes, just make sure that you go through the form, get to this like review and confirm, and then click this confirm button. And that's the only way that things will be saved. Yes, so feel free to do that. Like I said, the career fair itself is 11 to 3. Recruiters will be able to get logged into the fair starting as early as 10 a.m. So kind of that 10 to 11 a time is time for you all to kind of get into the fair, make sure you can get logged in and everything looks okay. We'll be offering an employer help Zoom room. So our staff will have a Zoom room set up and we'll be there just to answer your questions or help with any issues. And that room will be available from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it also will be available kind of during that first hour long time. And the end of this week or early next week, I'll be sending out an email to all representatives, so everyone who registered for the fair and all of the recruiters that are on the registration forms, with kind of like a logistical email. It'll have the recording of this training session. It will also have a link to that employer Zoom room, so you all will know how to get help the day of the career fair if you need that. Yeah, so I think Jessie raised their hand. Let me see. So we had someone who had a question about if you need to add a staff member kind of a last minute. So in order for your staff members to participate in the career fair in one-on-ones, they have to be on your registration form. Now you can edit your registration form the night before the career fair at 6 a.m. the morning of the career fair. You can edit it during the career fair, to be honest, to add that recruiter. So add that additional person. It is helpful that if you're doing it kind of during the career fair, you might try to like drop us an email or kind of stop in the employer help room. We do try to watch, because once you make changes to your registration form, it goes back to being pending, right? And then we have to approve that on our end. And we do during and kind of before the career fair are watching that pretty closely. But it might be quicker if you kind of drop into the Zoom room or send us a quick email just to say, hey, I made a change. Can you approve that pretty quickly? The other option, I'm putting our kind of main career fair email address in the chat, so you all have that. That is the best way to reach us via email. During the career fair, the best way to get help is if it's something that you feel like can be emailed, great, or to jump into our employer Zoom room. If you've gotten emails from us, you probably have phone numbers for us, but it's a lot more useful if you can join the Zoom room, the help room, because there'll be multiple staff members there that can help you, so we can help multiple people at once. And we can share our screen to walk you through things. You can share your screen so we can see what's going on. And also, like, if it gets to the day before the career fair or kind of last minute, or if you're having any issues updating your registration, you are welcome to send us an email to the career fair's email address and list out, include maybe, hey, I need to add one more representative. Could you do that for me quickly? Here's their information. Like, we can add that to your registration if that works better for you, especially kind of for something like that. All right, let me look at the chat. So we had a question from Jessie about kind of as you're looking at students that are registered for the career fair, what are you seeing? So when you look at all RSVP'd students, you are seeing literally all of the RSVP'd students. I will show you under the advanced search, there is this very last field that said students that have expressed interest. There is a way in the system for students to select their top employers, so the employers that they're most interested in. It's not a very visible field for students, and I don't think most students actually do that. You could, like the day before the career fair or the morning of, you might want to try a search for that. If you have no results or very few results, I think that that's mostly an indication of the fact that students don't often kind of express their interest. So you could try that as a search, but if there are none, I would say don't let that kind of affect you. So what you are seeing here, though, is all the students that have chosen to RSVP for the event. Students do have to kind of click the RSVP to be able to participate in the event, but they may do that at 11 a.m. or noon, kind of when they log on. That may be the time that they kind of click the RSVP button. They don't have to RSVP like in advance necessarily, or they don't have to. Yeah. So I think we covered kind of quite a few of the questions that I'm seeing. We did look at kind of how to edit your registration, and just to show you how to get there kind of from your home screen. If you want to edit your registration to change your logo or add people, on the left-hand side, click Events, and then Career Fairs. You'll find the career fair that you're participating in. You'll click the Registered button, and then there's a Registration tab. And you can scroll to the bottom and click Modify, and you can go through the form, and that's how you would update your information. So like if you wanted to update your logo, you could do that here. Just make sure to go through the form, kind of do that final confirmation. So that'll save that, so everything will be saved for you. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being a part of the training.